As a way of introduction, my name is Jeff Chang, and I am the district's Director of Federal, State, and Strategic Programs, and the administration of English learner testings falls under my purview. And Claudia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Claudia Navarrete. I'm the Department Secretary of the Federal, State, and Strategic Programs, and I work side by side with Jeff.
So tonight, we'd like to share with you some of the ways that we evaluate progress of our students whose primary language was not English, and then what we do with the information that we glean from this exam, the ELPAC. We will also, hopefully we'll have time to do a significant demonstration of the ELPAC practice test. And if at any time you'd like to access this presentation on a second device, maybe you want to click on some of the links, you can actually point your phone camera to the QR code that's on this slide. And I think it's on a couple of others. I think it's on every slide. But if any time you'd like to poke around, you can do that. You can also find this on our district website. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So I think most of us, if not all of us, are here because you either received an email from the school district about this ELPAC test, or you saw it on the district newsletter, and you thought, okay, my child is an English learner. Let me go learn a little bit more about the test that they're going to be taking. So let's just start with the basics. What is the ELPAC? Well, the ELPAC stands for the English Language Proficiency Assessments of California. And it's a test that we use to measure how well students K through 12 understand English when they did not enter school speaking it as their primary language, or at some point in their life, they spoke a different primary language. Information from this test helps your child's teacher to provide support in listening, speaking, and writing in English. So the ELPAC, it's a cute kind of like the gecko for Geico. These are alpacas. So the alpaca, the ELPAC is actually two different tests. There's a little alpaca and a bigger alpaca. The initial ELPAC test is given when kids first enter school, usually in kindergarten or first grade, or when they move from a different country or a different part of the world, and their first language is not English, right? But the majority of students we're talking about here are kindergartners and first graders. The initial ELPAC is used to identify whether the child needs additional help learning English, and therefore is an English learner. And sometimes when we give the initial ELPAC to students, they are classified as initially English fluent proficient. You may hear the term IFEP. That means that they don't need additional services. And then they would not need to continue with the ELPAC in the future. However, if they are not considered initially English proficient, they'll be assigned a score of 1 to 4, beginner to advanced. And that will determine a bunch of different things in their academic career going forward until they do something called reclassify, which I will get to in a moment. So again, this is kind of similar to the summary that I just said. It's given to all students who based on the home language survey that we give during registration. The initial ELPAC is given to students who may not speak English proficiently yet. And the summative ELPAC, the bigger alpaca, is the test at the end of the year, which is similar in format to the initial, that we give every single year to see what their progress is from level 1 all the way to level 4. Let's see. Stuff on this in the notes in this slide that I pretty much went over already, so I'm going to keep going. All right, so specifically, what does the test involve? Well, it has 4 sections in it: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And these are the 4 domains of language. It's a 4-part test. Most of the test for for all the students, K through 12 or K through 8 in our district's case, most of the test is done online, whether that's online in person or online remotely. It's almost all on the computer. The exception is the little kids, K through 2's writing, because they do have to write on paper. So that's the only exception, but most of the test is done online. And actually, I kind of skipped ahead, and this is pretty much what I just said. Computer-based tests. We do have trained test examiners who are experienced at giving the test to the students. And depending on the portion of the test, it's given either individually, one-on-one, or in small groups. So when do these tests happen? As I mentioned, the initial ELPAC is given at the beginning of the year when the kids first come enroll in school. Or if a child moves from out of the country and we suspect that they're an English learner, they come in April, we have to test them on the initial ELPAC in April. But most of the testing happens in the fall. The summative happens in the late winter, early spring, from February 1st to May 31st. There's a long window because these tests are done in small batches, right? One-on-one or in small groups. And that's given every year at about the same time, February 1st to May 31st. The only exceptions were made earlier this year when, because of COVID in last spring, schools were closed. So we did give some summative ELPAC tests this fall as well. But generally it's in the spring. If your child has a disability or an IEP, Individualized Education Plan, they will also, and they're an English learner, they will also take these tests. The test has been designed so that students can participate, all students can participate and show what they know and can do. The test does include accessibility resources to address visual, auditory, physical access barriers, which allows virtually all students to demonstrate what they know in English. Any testing accommodations needed by the student will be discussed and agreed upon at the annual IEP meeting during the students, at the annual IEP meeting each year. That is, if your child has a disability, we make accommodations so that they can show what they know on this test as well. All right, so scores. After the test, you will receive a score report that looks like this one for the summative ELPAC. The summative ELPAC for this year, they'll take the test and then scores should be available in the summer via PowerSchool, which is our district's student information portal. And you'll get the overall level. It'll show whether your child is level 1, 2, 3, or 4. And they will also get more detailed information. You will also get more detailed information about oral language and breaking it down into listening and speaking and written language. And really just, it breaks it down to the component 4 areas, right? It will tell you whether your child is a beginning student, somewhat or moderately developed, or well-developed in each of those subcategories. So practice test. It's very important for us to help the students see what the test looks like before they go in, because if it's your first time, it's not as simple as it used to be where you could hand somebody a piece of paper with some questions on it, and then they would take the test, right? The computer allows us to do lots of things, and it's an improvement in a lot of ways, but it does make things complicated in other ways. So it's a practice test is a chance to become familiar with the types of test questions and what the ELPAC looks like. If and when you follow this practice test link, you should be able to go over it with your child to see what types of questions are on there and practice the technical aspects of the test. And we'll go over it a little bit. It can seem a little complicated and daunting at first, but we'll try to do a quick walkthrough. This will also be done in class. All schools and teachers of English learners have been instructed to, at the very least, give the students an orientation of all of the areas of the test. Because we think it's important. We shouldn't just leave it to only parents, but if parents, you want to go over it with your kids, it's never a bad idea to familiarize the children with the format of the test. Okay. So one of the, I mean, what is the goal with all of this, right? The goal of all of this is to ensure that the children who come into our schools who are not proficient in English reach a level at which they can be at the equal level of English understanding and access the same types of academic content as their peers who only grew up speaking English. And so the process by which our former English learners become what we call reclassified as fluent is called reclassification. In order to have a child reclassify as a fluent English learner, a former EL, they have to receive a level 4 on the ELPAC, an overall level 4 on the summative ELPAC, and meet standards in one of the district assessments. You may have heard of the term iReady. You may have also heard of this test called Literably. So they have to pass 2 tests. They have to pass this major one, this at the end of every year, the ELPAC, and they also have to pass or meet or exceed grade level standards in one of these district tests. And then they have to be recommended by their teachers and principals. And then, of course, you as the parent would have to sign off and say, yes, I'm ready. When a child is reclassified, they no longer get offered the extra types of language support. They no longer need it. So they don't get the extra type of language support they might be getting from their teachers in elementary school or middle school, which is good. We don't want to give kids any additional support that they don't need. I often get asked, how long should it take my child to reclassify? And the answer here is it's different for every child. Research shows that it could take 5, 6, 7, or even more years for an individual children to develop the same level of English as a child who grew up only speaking English, only one language. So we do have a lot of children that reclassify in grades 1, 2, and let's say they come in kindergarten and they're considered English learners. There are kids that reclassify by the time they're in 1st grade, some in 2nd grade, some in 3rd grade, 4th grade. Our expectation, our hope, and expectation is that 75% of all of our English learners are reclassified as fluent English proficient by the time they're in 5th grade. And then 85% by the time they leave us in 8th grade and go up to the high school. Ideally, it would be 100%, but I think realistically, I think this is it's a great target to aim for, because there are oftentimes kids will come from other places. Maybe they enter our school in 3rd grade or our schools in 3rd grade or 4th grade, and it's hard to control for those factors. And then every child, again, has learning differences. I will highlight that often this is a point of nervousness for families, and it's understandable if people are worried, oh, well, they're going to go to middle school, they're going to go to high school, and there's going to be this, label, or they're not going to be ready. We are and have been doing everything we can to make sure that kids develop at the kind of edge of their learning, zone of proximal development in child development terms, right? We want them to be on the leading edge of their abilities. And so we're doing everything we can to support them in class, outside of class, offering these types of meetings for you guys so you know what's going on. And in the future, I and the team are looking forward to developing more resources in case parents want to take some of the additional support at home, after school, during the summer. Every family is different, but I want to lay this out for you guys so you understand what we are discussing and if there's things at stake. So there's a whole website that the state offers called Starting Smarter, has links to all sorts of different resources and tests, including the ELPAC. You'll find some documents that are made in collaboration with PTAs, giving parents additional guidance on what kind of questions to ask your child's teacher about his or her language development, among other things. When this week is conference week, right? So some of you may already have had conferences with your teachers. If you haven't yet, this is a good time to kind of be thinking about specific questions that you want to make sure you ask your child's teacher when you have these opportunities. Ask them, what's my child doing well? how, in what areas might my child need some extra support? Who will provide that extra support either at school or how, and also how can family members help at home? This is just kind of a starting conversation. If I would go further and say if you know your child is an English learner, then you ask them and you ask the teachers, like, so my child's an English learner, what are the extra supports that they're getting? And what can we do at home to build good habits so that we don't have to worry that reclassification will come naturally in the course of a child's development and learning. We don't want to have to worry about this situation, when they're in 5th grade or when they're in 7th and 8th grade, and now we're saying, it's time to not panic, but really, it's time to really start worrying about this kind of thing. The important thing is to build those habits early and to sustain them. The child will develop their English in their own way. Some kids pick it up really fast just by being dropped in a place where they have to speak English. Other kids take longer. It really, really depends. Okay, so again, this website, this presentation will be available online on our district website, and you have been able to point your phone at these QR codes in the corner to access it on your phone as well. Okay, let's see. Instead of going over some FAQs, I'd like to actually take some time to show you guys the practice test. Okay, so I'm gonna actually, can you guys see this? Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see the, okay, web page? Great. So I'm just Googling ELPAC practice test, and here's what I come up with. And I'm clicking here to ELPAC practice test, and you can actually see right here. It's a little bit buried, but I've seen this many times, so I know exactly where to go. Under practice and training tests, go to the student interface because you want to see what the child will see when they take the test. So you click on here. And here is a login page. And if it's your first time here, all you really need to do is just leave this as guest and guest. It's a generic test, and we just go in as a guest. And then we select a grade level. Let's pretend we're a 3rd grader. Actually, let's pretend we're a 2nd grader. And I will go to 3rd grade in a second. So right here, if you're a 2nd grader, right here is where, it's right here, it pops right up. These are the ELPAC practice tests. And you can pick one of the ones that you see. Let's say we want to start the reading practice test. Now you'll also see some options here. Just to add in, let's say you wanted to turn on some of these tools. American Sign Language. Now, in the actual test, your child will actually have to have documentation that allows them to have access to some of these additional tools, but these are interesting to turn on and kind of learn about if you're curious about it. All right, but I'm going to scroll down to the bottom, and I'm going to select and just leave it. Just like with all computerized tests, they'll do an audio. Did everyone hear that? Did you not? Okay, thank you for nodding. Sometimes I don't remember if I pressed the check, like project your sound. So I could play the sound and video. It works. Okay, continue. Begin test now. Right, so this is what the children will see when they take the test. And then here's a question. And this is the type of question that a 2nd grader may be asked to answer. Right, so I think this is the right answer. It's a practice test, so we're just seeing the format. Okay. Next. Next. Okay, here's another part of the another type of question in the reading test. The children are given short passage to read with a picture, and then they're asked questions about it. On the right side, I didn't read the paragraphs, but I'm guessing it's C. C. Can I skip? Yeah, so I can move forward on the test, just on this practice test, just like in a real test. But if I skip all of them, it will tell me you should go back and answer these questions. So I'm just going to pick some random answers so we can move forward. Oh, I didn't go to number 6. Okay. Smooth skin, sure. All right. All right. And this really was a very short practice set test. You can say that this is exactly what they'll see when they finish that section. You can pause, or you can end tests. I'm going to end the test. This is exactly, again, what the children see when they're about to finish. Yes, I've reached the end of the test. I can go back and check my answers on any of these. Let's check number 3. Okay, great. Well, let's see, I'm going to end the test now. As you can see, lots of buttons to push. Again, another good reason why it's good to go over this with the kids. Yes. Okay. And that's what the kids see. So you can do that with the various sections of this practice test. All right. I've been talking for the past 20 minutes or so. I've thrown a lot of information at you. So I'm going to pause now and ask to see if you have any questions for us. And we're a small group, so you don't have to do anything like raise your hand. Just you can unmute yourself if you have a question, and you can just ask.
Hello, my name is Zoltan Barra. I'm the father of Andre Barra. Just in case, I mean, I am practically jumping from a work meeting to this meeting, and I saw all these things. Everything is roughly clear, but I might, have 2 other meetings tomorrow and forget about everything. Is this thing already written somewhere? Like
Yes.
all the steps and everything?
Yes. So this presentation is linked on our district website.
Okay.
I can actually show you exactly where to go
Okay.
Because admittedly, I wish it was like on the front page and really, really easy to find. It's not difficult to find, but there are a couple of steps. So I can just show you right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay. Academics, supporting learning.
Yep.
English learners.
Okay.
And it is right here.
Okay.
Here we go. We had the first does this say December and January? It should say December and January. So we had one of these sessions in December. That's why it says December, but it's this presentation right here.
Okay. Yep. And this presentation I have all the links, everything, so I can actually find easily this test as well. Okay.
Yes. The link for the test itself, practice test, is right here. I think it's in a couple of different places, but yeah, here's another practice test link.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Barbara, Jeff. There's no math component to this then, right? Nothing.
No,
nothing
this is only a language test. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Well, if you think of other questions, as soon as we finish here and you say, oh, I should have asked that question, here's my contact information and Claudia's contact information. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have regarding this test, its context, how to help kids practice, what to talk to your teacher about. Feel free to reach out to us. You can, of course, also reach out to your child's teacher. You can reach out to the school and community engagement facilitators at every school. I think one of them is on here now, is B here, yep. B class is the Landals and Vargas community engagement facilitators, and every site has somebody like that you can go to. Or when all else fails, the principal almost always has the answers. So you have lots of places to turn if you have questions. Well, thank you guys all very much for attending. We do have another meeting that's going to